Hi everyone, I'm Danielle Byington, and this is the final video on my series covering the Wasteland. This is about the segment called What the Thunder Said. So, starting out, in the last video, when I covered Death by Water, that the one subtitled Death by Water, I said make sure you keep in mind that ending because that gets kind of reconnected here early on in the first few lines or so of part five here of What the Thunder Said. So, in the end of part four in Death by Water, it was essentially saying to the reader, hey, this drowned man, this Phoenician, he was like you once, breathing and good looking and living, but now he's not, as he decays in the water. And so we move into that same idea here in the beginning of what the thunder said. Now, this whole idea of what the thunder is acting as a divine voice. You have a sort of blending here of Christianity and of Hinduism going on. So in lines 328 through 330, and two or three lines there, you have that pointing back to the end of part four. And basically, that is saying that the pain and fear of death is necessary for resurrection. So that's where you're getting these allusions to the different religions being used throughout this section. But also, in the larger sense, it's like this is that's kind of what the corpse is pointing to back in the end of part one, when it's saying like, what's the meaning of this? What does this tell us? The things that we destroy, like what do we build from that? So in a larger sense, it's like society as a whole, like what do we do after we've just destroyed ourselves with war? Okay, and then moving on to the next bit there that I've marked, you have a few lines talking about this absence of water. There's a lot of dryness. You have the stone. And that's important because you had a whole lot of water imagery throughout this very long poem. But way back also, in lines 24 and 26, back in part one, there was a description of the dry stones that were around the imagery of the tree. And I said it's talking about the roots of the tree below and the branches of the tree above. So the imagery above is the same as the imagery below. It's just that you can't always see the other half of it to know both sides of the story. So you have the opposite of the water, the dryness. Okay, then moving on to this next section I have marked. You have this reference to an Antarctic expedition that Eliot's talking about. He's saying, I only see me and you, but it seems like there's someone else here with us. And it's kind of like to be in this totally blank, sterile environment, to be down there on the seventh continent in Antarctica, where there's basically almost no civilization, just like maybe like a little couple towns or something around the um, the scientists who have encampments and are working. So you have not like what we would say is a large civilization in the sense of like where he's at in London writing, right? So to be just totally isolated, but feel like there's more than just you. So it's more than just you experiencing these losses and the death and the destruction. It's also other people you can't see. So, like the roots of the tree and the branches of the tree, it's one of the same, but there's a part of it you just don't see, but you know it's there. Okay, and then we have that mentioning of cities that are unreal, or the city unreal that was mentioned in part one, and it's mentioned again later. So we have that inferno imagery again with those masses, and he even is this time describing them as kind of dragging themselves across a plain. You have that exact part in the Inferno too. So it's almost like we're getting to the end of Inferno the same way we're getting to the end of the Wasteland. Now, here in the end, we are getting to that thing about the voice of the thunder, the da, the capital D A that you have here in the end of the poem. So that comes from Hinduism, and it means it uses three different words that are in your poem: to give, to sympathize, and to have self-control. So that is like part of the enlightenment journey. Then from there, we return to that setting of fishing. Remember when the speaker is fishing along the Thames and talking about all the trash along the Thames, and then talking about the Thames history and its pastoral setting. So then you also have an allusion to the Fisher King, which is that is a fragment from Arthurian legend. So more of the Arthurian legend, more of that rope connecting us all the way back to Troy. That's there again. And then in the end, we have the Shanti repeated. So your translation of that, and the Norton Anthology gives you this too. It's from Eliot's notes, I believe. Peace, understanding, acceptance. We can look at that, we can interpret that as the same as the hanged man. Remember that way back in part one, when we encountered the psychic doing the tarot reading, she said she doesn't see the hanged man. Like, where is it? And doesn't that seem like a weird thing to say? I mean, I can't think off the top of my head how many tarot cards there really are, but it's like a deck of cards. There's more than a dozen, right? There are a lot. And it's like she's looking for that. Like we needed that card for some reason. And it's because it is like that peace and understanding. This connects us back to the beginning. So the hanged man isn't death. Remember what I said about that in the previous, or well, in back in video. It's like the second video. It's the video on part one. Not death. It's like you need to pause and assess the situation. If you just accept what there is, what has happened, then you can move forward. So that if you take the end of this poem and connect it to the beginning and you look at it kind of parallel side by side, you have a lot of events, a lot of actions and imagery that parallel each other beside one another. So it's making that loop that hangs the man and that card that the psychic was talking about. And so what is it that's doing that to us? It's he's talking about post World War One world. Wow, that's a mouthful. And it's sort of like we hang ourselves with our own history. Society hangs itself with its own doings. Um, but that's history, those things that are really bad, like wars. Like I said, he's talking about World War One. Conflict makes us have to stop and look at ourselves. And when we look at ourselves, we also have to look at that part we can't always see. Like I was saying about the roots of the tree, there's another part there, another half, and you kind of know what it looks like, but you just can't always see it easily. Okay, so that's all for the Wasteland. Thank you for watching.